In this screencast, we're going to look at how to turn on ambient lighting and use ambient occlusion in Blender. If you're unsure about what ambient lighting is, I suggest that you look at my diffuse specular and ambient lighting video, which explains some of these concepts in more detail. Right now, to use this in Blender, what we need to know is that the ambient lighting is a material quality. So we look into the Shaders tab, and that's part of the world materials. So if we look at the world, by default, we have a blue horizon color. That's the HO right here, stands for horizon. A black zenith, which is the top of the sky, and a black ambient color. We don't normally see the zenith because we don't normally have blending turned on. But you see if we turn on blending, the horizon line would be blue and the top of the sky would be black. It's sort of like a early twilight kind of setting. I'm going to turn off that blend and play only with the ambient color right now. And the ambient color, if we were to render this with a black ambient color, what we would see is that the teddy bear's shadows all become exactly that ambient color, black, as we get into the dark spaces. In reality, we're actually able to see things in the shadows a little bit better than this, so it should actually be dark but not inky blackness. So what we're going to do here is we're going to change our ambient color to something a little warmer than this black. I'm going to make a drastic change so we can see it clearly. The lighter our ambient color is, the overall brighter our model will be. I'm going to choose a nice kind of warmish brown here. It's fairly light so we can see it obviously, but not so light that we totally overwhelm our model. So I'm going to use this brown right here. I'm going to re-render this model with this ambient lighting. What we see now with the brown ambient light is that all the places that had been black in our previous render are now brown in this new render. It's not a very subtle thing. Rather than going to black, it goes to brown. If we had chosen red or green, it would go to red or green. So we actually want to make this even more realistic. To do this, we're going to use something called ambient occlusion. Ambient occlusion is found also under the World Materials shader, and it's on this Amb Oc tab, Ambient Occlusion, and we enable it by clicking the Ambient Occlusion button. It has a number of settings, and you can play with them to see how it works. We're going to use the simplest default settings right now, and this will average this brown color together with the actual colors of our model to create a more subtly shaded version of this. Let's take a look at what that looks like. What we see in this final render here with the ambient occlusion turned on is a more subtle shading. Rather than going to brown, it simply goes to a darkest version of that color. So if we take a look at this brown ambient light with ambient occlusion and without versus the original black, the ambient occlusion is doing the best job so far of approximating how objects will look in real life. Bear in mind this is still an approximation, and if we wanted to get a truly high quality photorealistic render, we'd need to play with some advanced ray tracing settings as well.